Florida stunned Houston 70-67 in a nail-biting national championship game, winning their third NCAA title with a dramatic late rally that defied expectations and showcased the power of relentless defense. For more than 30 minutes of the game, Houston's stifling defense had forced Florida into a grinding, deliberate style of play. However, after the Cougars built a 42-30 second-half lead, the Gators fought back in the final moments. The turning point came with just over 46.5 seconds remaining in the game. Houston's lead had dwindled to 67-61 when Elijah Martin drew a foul on a drive to the basket and hit 2 free throws. Cutting Dukes, Houston's opponent here is Florida, so careful, correction. Cutting Florida's deficit, lead gap to 4 points. Florida never relinquished their regained momentum. On the ensuing possession, Houston turned the ball over, and Denzel Aberdeen's free throw pushed Florida's lead to 65-63 with 19.7 seconds left. Houston then had a chance to tie or take the lead, but a remarkable defensive stand by the Gators proved decisive. As Houston attempted to set up sharpshooter Milos Uzan with a pass from L.J. Cryer from the right wing, Uzan found himself double-teamed by 2 Florida defenders while trying to break free off a screen. Frustrated, Uzan relinquished the ball back to Cryer, who quickly passed it to Emmanuel Sharp at the top of the key. However, Sharp, disrupted by a defensive hand from Walter Clayton Jr. as he pulled up for a 3, dropped the ball. The errant rebound allowed the clock to run out, sealing the victory and prompting an eruption of celebration by the Florida bench and fans. The game was a defensive battle from the start, with Houston's opponents limited to 34.8% shooting from the field and a paltry 24% shooting from three-point range. Houston's leading scorer, L.J. Cryer, finished with 19 points and 6 rebounds on a 6 of 18 shooting performance, and no other Cougar scored in double figures. In contrast, Florida, despite entering the contest with one of the NCAA's top-scoring offenses, averaging 85.3 points per game and having scored 77 or more in each of their 5 previous tournament victories, was forced into a grinding, slower-paced game against the nation's best defense. Key contributions came from multiple Florida players. Center Alex Condon, who had scored a single point in the Final Four against Auburn, stepped up with 12 points and 7 rebounds. Will Richard, emerging as a scorer as Clayton struggled early, ended the game with a team-high 18 points and 8 rebounds. The defensive pressure mounted throughout the second half, eventually forcing Houston into a series of mistakes. A combination of turnovers, missed opportunities, and clutch free throw shooting by Florida ultimately allowed them to wrest control away from the Cougars. In the final minute, every possession mattered. Florida maintained a steady tempo and executed under pressure to keep Houston at bay. Even though Houston had briefly controlled parts of the second half, with a 42-30 advantage at one point, the Cougars were unable to sustain their momentum. Instead, Florida's resilience and strategic defensive stops proved the difference, and the Gators emerged victorious. Florida's win capped off a game defined by grit and a relentless comeback against a Houston team that appeared to have it all, until a few critical miscues in the dying seconds. With the shot clock winding down and the defensive stand that effectively ended Houston's rally, Florida secured the national title in one of the most dramatic finishes in recent NCAA history.
What's going on, college basketball fans? March Madness has delivered another unforgettable moment. In a thrilling NCAA Men's National Championship game, the Florida Gators pulled off a stunning late rally to defeat the heavily favored Houston Cougars 65-63. Securing their program's third national title. This game was a roller coaster of emotions, a true testament to the heart and determination of the Florida squad. Let's break down how the Gators pulled off this incredible upset. The video you sent over details a game where, for the majority of the contest, Houston's vaunted defense had seemingly suffocated Florida's typically high-powered offense. The Cougars forced the Gators into a slower, more grinding style of play than they were accustomed to. For over 30 minutes, it looked like Houston was firmly in control. And when they opened up a 42-30 lead in the second half, many probably thought the game was over. But Florida refused to go down without a fight. Showing incredible resilience, the Gators began to chip away at the lead, demonstrating the very essence of March Madness. The turning point came late in the game when Elijah Martin drove to the basket and drew a foul, sinking both free throws with just 46.5 seconds remaining. Those clutch free throws gave Florida their first lead of the second half, and they would never trail again. On the ensuing possession, Houston uncharacteristically turned the ball over, giving Florida an opportunity to extend their lead. Denzel Aberdeen stepped up to the free throw line and calmly sank one of two shots, pushing the Gators' advantage to 65-63 with only 19.7 seconds left on the clock. Houston had one final chance to either tie the game or take the lead, but in a fitting end to a hard-fought contest, Florida turned the tables on Houston, delivering a suffocating defensive effort on the game's final possession. Houston initially looked to set up their sharpshooter, Milos Uzan, for a potential game-winning shot from the right wing. L.J. Cryer attempted to get the ball to him off a screen, but Uzan was immediately met by two tenacious Florida defenders, preventing him from getting a clean look. Uzan then passed the ball back to Cryer, who quickly moved it to Emmanuel Sharp at the top of the key. However, Sharp found himself with nowhere to go as he pulled up for a potential game-tying three-pointer. Walter Clayton Jr. got a hand right in his face, disrupting the shot. Sharp then lost control of the ball, dropping it to the floor as the final buzzer sounded. He could only watch it bounce, knowing that if he touched it again, he would be called for a game-ending traveling violation. The Florida celebration erupted on the court. The video highlights that this defensive stand was a perfect ending to a game that was defined by intense defense from the opening tip. Houston had managed to take a 31-28 lead into halftime, largely due to their stifling defense, which notably held Florida's star player, Walter Clayton Jr., scoreless in the entire first half. Clayton, an All-American who had been on a tear throughout the NCAA tournament, averaging 24.6 points in his previous 5 games, didn't score his first point until a free throw with 14:57 remaining in the second half. But as the game wore on, it was Clayton's offense, coupled with Florida's tenacious defense down the stretch, that ultimately propelled the Gators to victory. Clayton finished the game with 11 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, and, of course, that crucial hand in Sharp's face on the final play. His overall performance throughout the Final Four, including a dominant 34-point outing in Florida's semifinal win over Auburn, earned him the well-deserved title of Final Four Most Outstanding Player. Florida's comeback truly began on the defensive end, after Houston extended their lead to 45-34 on a Sharp free throw with just over 14 minutes remaining. The Gators locked down defensively, holding the Cougars to a mere 3 points over the next nearly 7 minutes. This defensive surge allowed Florida to cut the deficit to 48-45. Then, Walter Clayton Jr. finally found his offensive rhythm. Clayton scored his first field goal of the game on a tough and one layup in traffic, tying the game at 48-48 after sinking the free throw. Just 2 possessions later, history repeated itself, with Houston back in the lead at 51-48. Clayton again drove hard to the basket, scored through contact, and drew another foul. Once again, he calmly sank the free throw, tying the game for the second time, even with less than 4 minutes remaining and Houston holding a slim 60-57 lead. Clayton wasn't done. This time, he showcased his versatility by hitting a huge three-pointer, his only made 3 in 7 attempts, off a screen. This crucial shot kept the pressure squarely on Houston, who had not trailed in the second half up to that point. From there, Florida's relentless defensive pressure continued, ultimately setting the stage for Elijah Martin's game-winning free throws in the final minute. The video highlights the irony of Florida winning this championship by playing Houston's brand of basketball. When the final buzzer sounded, Florida had limited Houston to a poor 34.8% shooting from the field and an even colder 24%, 6 of 25, from beyond the arc. L.J. Cryer led the Cougars with 19 points and 6 rebounds. But he had to take 18 shots to get there, making just 6. No other Houston player managed to reach double figures in scoring, a testament to Florida's stifling defense. It's worth noting that Florida entered Monday's game with the NCAA's third highest scoring offense, averaging a VPEC at Lossage 85.3 points per game. They had scored 77 points or more in each of their 5 previous NCAA tournament victories. However, they were forced into a grind against the nation's best defense. The Gators shot just 39.6% from the field and a similar 25%, 6 of 24, from three-point range. Also committing 13 turnovers. As Clayton struggled early, Will Richard stepped up big for Florida, leading the team with 18 points and 8 rebounds. Center Alex Condon also chipped in with 12 points and 7 rebounds after scoring just 1 point in the Final Four against Auburn. The video concludes by emphasizing that this win wasn't pretty, and it certainly didn't always look like typical Florida basketball. But in the end, it didn't matter for the Gators. Houston forced them to play a tough, defensive-minded game, and on this night, Florida played it just a little bit better, securing their 3rd national championship in program history and denying Houston and head coach Kelvin Sampson their first elusive title. What were your thoughts on this incredible NCAA championship game? Were you surprised by Florida's comeback? What do you think was the biggest factor in their victory? And what's next for both the Florida Gators and the Houston Cougars? Share your reactions and opinions in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video. Subscribe for more college basketball highlights and analysis. And hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of the off-season news. We'll see you in the next one.